I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is UN Insider.
Coming up.
Global problems can only be solved by wielding not the weapons of war, but instead the tools of diplomacy, supported by a system based on international law.
The Secretary General defends the UN system and the rule of law.
I hope the U.S. will reconsider its decision and rejoin WHO.
Change is ahead for global public health as the U.S. leaves the World Health Organization.
Our focus is to make sure we don't leave anyone behind.
A conversation on efforts to bring reliable, clean energy to the world. Next.
Somalia led the UN Security Council for the month of January. As part of its agenda, the country hosted an open debate on peace, justice, and multilateralism.
Around the world, the rule of law is replaced by the law of the jungle. We see flagrant violations of international law and brazen disregard for the UN Charter. From Gaza to Ukraine and around the world, the rule of law is being treated as an à la carte menu. We see states flouting the rule of law with impunity through the illegal use of force, the targeting of civilian infrastructure, human rights violations and abuses, the illegal development of nuclear weapons, unconstitutional changes of government, and denial of life-saving humanitarian aid. These violations set dangerous precedents, encouraging other countries to do what they want instead of what they are required to do under international law.
The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has held for 3 months, but there are still issues to be addressed in the region. More aid and commercial goods are getting into the region, and famine has been reversed. While progress has been made, UN officials say aid still isn't flowing at levels that need to keep pace with the humanitarian needs.
Despite the progress with food security, 100,000 children remain acutely malnourished and require long-term care. 1.3 million people, many of them children, are in urgent need of proper shelter. Families are living in tents and bombed-out buildings, battered by heavy rain, strong winds, and freezing temperatures.
Changes could be ahead for global public health efforts. The United States has finalized its withdrawal from the World Health Organization. The move could not only impact things in the U.S., but around the world as well.
On the first day of his second term in office, President Donald Trump began the process of withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization.
What is this one? Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir?
Ooh, that's a big one.
The Director General of the WHO says withdrawal may damage public health around the world while also putting the U.S. at risk.
The U.S. cannot be safe unless the rest of the world is safe.
The WHO helps countries detect, study, and react to threats, including pandemics, by sharing technical expertise and coordinating responses like testing and vaccine distribution. The U.S. will no longer participate in that global system. Dr. Georges Benjamin is executive director of the American Public Health Association.
Creates a void and the inability for us to coordinate on a global scale. And, you know, the important thing to understand about particularly infectious diseases is that they do not respect geographical boundaries, and we travel at the speed of our transportation systems, which is, you know, hours.
The U.S. withdrawal from the WHO comes as the Trump administration has also cut billions of dollars in domestic public health spending.
We worry very much because the core infrastructure of public health has been decimated in the United States. But at the end of the day, the national government's responsibility is to protect its citizens and to ensure that the infrastructure and capacity is in place to do that. And as a nation, at least the United States right now is failing, not only the United States, but we're failing the rest of the world as a global citizen.
The consequences could be serious in the U.S. and abroad.
It will cost lives, not just American lives, but lives all over the world.
The WHO hopes the U.S. will reverse its decision.
I hope the U.S. will reconsider its decision and rejoin WHO. Withdrawal from WHO is a lose for the United States, and it's also a lose for the rest of the world.
But Dr. Benjamin says even if Trump or some future president were to bring the United States back into the World Health Organization, it could take years to rebuild the U.S. public health system and reintegrate into the global health community. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
Let's take a look at some of the other issues on the UN's agenda.
The Holocaust, after all, is not only history, it is a warning that hatred, once unleashed, can consume everything. Excellencies, dear friends, today that warning feels more urgent than ever.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres delivered an address in observance of Holocaust Remembrance Day. It marks the day concentration camps were liberated in 1945. 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust. The UN's team in Chile is lending support as the country battles sweeping wildfires. Entire communities have been wiped out in some places. More than 20 people have died, and 50,000 have been forced to evacuate. The UN's Economic and Social Council, known as ECOSOC, is marking its 80th anniversary. ECOSOC is a key policy body that coordinates the work of 15 UN agencies. It also helps advance sustainable development around the world.
Coming up.
We have 666 million people across the world without access to electricity, and 565 million of those reside in my continent, Africa.
UN Insider.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Monday marked the International Day of Clean Energy. Millions of people around the world live without reliable access to energy. Sustainable Development Goal number 7 aims to change that. I discussed the effort to bring modern energy to all with Damalola Ogunbiyi. She's the CEO and Special Representative for Sustainable Energy for All and the co-chair of UN Energy. We are 5 years away from 2030, and 1 in 5 people still lack access to electricity, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. How can we bring reliable, clean, renewable energy to that population and other populations in the world?
So you are right. We have 666 million people across the world without access to electricity, and 565 million of those reside in my continent, Africa. When we look at the global framework, when we look at the investments in energy, we see that we've surpassed fossil fuels. We've got about 2.2 trillion now going to the energy sector, which is fantastic. But what people don't talk about is only 15% of that money goes into emerging and developing economies, and only 2% of that money comes into Africa. So even if we had the best policies in the world, if we had good transitions, the best program managers to solve this, and we definitely have the technology, if we do not have the right types of financing going into these sectors, we won't achieve our targets. And that's why we are working with the World Bank and the AFDB on their program to provide electricity to 300 million Africans by 2030. But it's a huge lift, and it's a type of thing that is not just about African government, it's about the global community coming together and explaining that this is really, really important and this affects everyone in the world.
Some other numbers here for you. Nearly 3 billion people rely on wood, coal, charcoal, animal waste for cooking or heating. What is being done currently to transition people away from that into cleaner, more renewable forms of energy?
Again, that's a great question, because clean cooking is also sometimes seen as a stepchild of electrification and not really focused on. So globally, yes, there are 2.1 billion people that have no access to clean cooking. And why it's staggering is that even on my continent, it's the 5th largest cause of death on African women. And if you think about it, as me as a mother, can imagine I spend 5-6 hours going to collect fuel, bring it home to cook, and I'm dying inside because I'm trying to cook for my family. So it's, you know, it hits deforestation, and it hits human capacity, hits health, and it's one of the really, really critical issues of our lifetime. So one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to marry, when we have electrification efforts, with clean cooking at the same time. We're also working with countries, when you're planning for your electrification plant, can you also plan for clean cooking? Cost the clean cooking, what it would really, really take to take people out of fuel wood. And then finally, having some of the climate finances coming into the market, like what is happening, can we have carbon markets really drive this area, because it causes so much deforestation in certain areas. So it's not just, I would like clean cooking, it's that if I do clean cooking, there's so many other knock-on effects and so many other SDGs that it would achieve, that it's important that we all come around it.
Because I don't think people realize these sort of links. I mean, it's a public health issue, as you point out. There's also a climate-related issue to it as well, and they're all connected.
They are all connected. So, you know, we can't stop and say it's okay for 1 billion people, if the trajectory keeps going, by 2030 to have limited access to electricity, and all of a sudden by 2050 we're going to achieve our 1.5 target. We just can't do it. It's the math. So it's in all our benefits to invest now, to make sure the people coming on the energy and electricity and clean cooking ladder are coming on in a clean and sustainable way instead of a dirty way, and a sustainable energy for all and a UN system. Our focus is to make sure we don't leave anyone behind.
Now, you previously led efforts to end energy poverty in your home country. What did you see and learn from that experience, and how is that helping you now?
So first, one of the key things was that speed and scale really does matter. We were able to electrify almost 8 million people in 18 months, so we can do it. And we did that, a lot of that through decentralized renewable energy. So one of the things that I'm learning from all of this is that there's going to be different solutions for different environments, and we shouldn't be scared about it. We shouldn't take, you know, what we're doing in Lagos, Nigeria, and say, oh, that's going to work in Nairobi, or it's going to work in China. Like, no, you have to understand the unique environments. But what I also notice is that the technology costs have dramatically gone down. So back in the day, I was trying to convince people to use solar energy. Now, it is actually the most cost-effective way. And then finally, for me, what we have now evolved to is energy for productivity, right? How do I live a productive life? How do I have energy for my farming, energy for SMEs, things like that? Because that is going to be what it calls economic growth. And we have so many villages and communities telling us, you can power my home, but if you power where I work, I will get the disposable income to live a better, dignified life. So we really need to listen to people on the continent and not come up with these programs and then try and implement it on ground. We need to be on ground, and we need to just really, really understand that economic growth and energy access are one of the same.
China is the largest producer of renewable energy in the world. Taking the lead when it comes to solar and wind, is there anything among all this that other countries can maybe learn what China is doing?
No, absolutely. I think what makes China really unique is they come and study the countries as well and study what they need. So when I was in Nigeria, one of the big pushes that we had from the Chinese supplier was being able to give equipment with vendor financing. So kind of buy now, pay later, or allowing them to pay over a period of time was a complete game changer. Because a lot of the grants they were going to get, or resource-based financing, or the funding from, people even paying for energy, comes a bit later. So being able to do that was important. The other thing that we've been working with our green manufacturing and our green industrial hub is how we're having Chinese manufacturers come and at least start up assembly in continent. And I'm really glad to say I can show 4 or 5 PV plants now, at least between Lagos and Accra, that Chinese have partnered with local companies to develop. So it's not just about, the Chinese are also looking about broadening the supply chain instead of saying, oh, everybody bring into our continent, but what can we do productively? And, I think a lot of countries that are saying they want to do more trade, or why is it always the Chinese? They need to learn from these models of how the Chinese have worked. I must admit, the Chinese are something that's very familiar to Africa anyway. This is our 4 decades of us having the Chinese build large infrastructure, ports, and things like that. But they're also focused on making sure no one's left behind. And I think that is a very, very interesting model, and one with all this geopolitical tension, we should align to that it's not a geopolitical thing. This is just about giving people dignified lives.
Damilola Ogunbiyi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Renewable energy is growing in popularity. Hydropower, wind, and solar are becoming a bigger part of the overall electric consumption. In eastern China, one city has made solar power a priority. In fact, the energy source has become part of the city's identity.
Solar is the star of an industrial park in Jiangsu province. These large-scale photovoltaic systems have earned the city of Taizhou the nickname Solar City. Han Ji oversees the zero-carbon businesses in Haining District, Taizhou.
We are now going to the district government to check the progress of some projects at a school. We've communicated with them before, and now we are just doing the final walkthrough. We have to confirm with the school as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will be no time to finish. We also need to upgrade the blueprints. We'll be wasting our time if they reject the plans.
The progress of solar energy construction is reported online. If the project is currently in progress, it will be reported to the district leader.
Building a solar city in Hailing District involves several aspects. One is the manufacturing capacity, which involves the supply chains for the solar photovoltaic modules. The second is installation for the entire module. And lastly, the energy output, which also relates to digital management.
These are the 3 zero-carbon cabins on our Sun Island. They're equipped with photovoltaic modules on the roof and generate 130,000 kilowatt an hour of electricity every year, enough to fully satisfy the needs of all 3 cabins. We plan to vigorously promote this kind of project in the future. After seeing so many solar power plants built one by one, I have a great sense of achievement.
These plants need light to generate electricity. From my point of view, I have been working on solar projects for more than 10 years. This place and these projects are very meaningful to me.
Solar is a clean energy. Fossil fuels will be scarce one day. We should use more renewable energy, such as solar or wind. Hopefully, people will be more committed to low-carbon lifestyles, saving energy and reducing emissions.
After all, this is a carbon problem. Achieving peak carbon dioxide emissions and truly being carbon neutral is what we hope to see in the future. This is the motivation for the work we do. Solar is not only an industry, but also a great cause.
UN Insider.
Holding guns. Word protesters.
Were you worried about your life at that particular time?
Not at all.
Excellency, thank you very much for your time. What is your assessment of the state of the continent today?
Africa has the potential to power itself.
Excuse me.
Recycling is a key part of green initiatives around the world, but it is not always as simple as tossing a bottle into a bin. Here's a look at some unsung heroes of the recycling world who go the extra mile to make the practice work.
Diana and Marta Ochoa are recyclers. Marta began recycling on the streets of Bogotá 5 years ago.
I started recycling with a grocery cart and cloth bags to collect recyclables on the street. I would go collect, sell, and go back to the street. I realized it was worth it because of time and money.
At first, Marta says she did it for the money. She chose her hours, she was her own boss, and she could make as much money as the time she put in. Then her daughter, Diana, began to learn about pollution at school and its role in climate change. She realized how important her job really was.
Diana began to study, and she began to explain to me the destruction of the ozone layer, and that what I was doing was really good, and that if I spread this information, it could help prevent the destruction of the ozone.
24-year-old Diana Esclava Ochoa says it was hard to initially see her mother go from regular jobs at restaurants and shopping centers to rummaging through trash on the street.
Fue muy difícil porque reciclar es caminar.
At first, it was very hard because recyclers have to walk under rain or sunshine. There are people who treat them badly because they don't understand the job, or they carry the stigma of perhaps being a homeless person, or other negative things that are not true. So it was hard in the beginning, but it worked out well.
Diana and Marta walk through a predetermined neighborhood each week with their sidekick Luna the dog. She is the epitome of a man's best friend. They go through trash left out by apartment buildings before the city's trash collector takes everything to a landfill. In 2023, the city of Bogotá said they had 25,478 registered people working as recyclers. The Ochoa family takes the materials to their home, where they finish sifting through the recyclables and separating them between different types of plastic, carton, metals, and cans.
At the place where we take this, it undergoes another process so that this is left super clean.
Sorting through bags of accumulated waste to find recyclables isn't easy, a problem that could easily be solved if citizens correctly separated their trash.
In their effort to separate trash, they've contracted illnesses. They cut themselves. The trash mixes and produces terrible odors.
This is where Diana and Marta Ochoa bring the recyclable materials in the late afternoon. This association is called Reciclemos Todos, Let's Everyone Recycle in English, and it is led by 36-year-old Dora Alice Arevalo. The association represents 304 recycling families. Associations are an important step in the formalization of this work. By 2011, Colombia's local government was recognizing that what recyclers did was an environmental service for the public, and that the recycling population deserved state protection and compensation for their work.
I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN insider.